The Indianapolis Colts once again absolutely demolished one of their opponents, this time the struggling Las Vegas Raiders. So what can we expect going forward from this 4-1 team? What sort of adjustments might need to be made despite playing such clean football? And how do you, the fans, feel about this new look Colts that just continue to win? Well, let's talk about it. Welcome to the Horseshoe Huddle Podcast, as always presented by Indianapolis Colts on SI.com. I'm Drake Wally, co-deputy editor for the site, co-host of the show, joined by Noah Gebert, analyst for the site and fellow co-host. You know, Noah, we've been able to actually just talk almost nothing but good stuff about this football team. Even that loss to the Rams, even the close nail biter to the Broncos. You know, it's just been nothing but good vibes, kind of like you were talking about before we went live here. But how you doing? What'd you think of the game? And, you know, what's your gut feeling about this Colts team?
Yeah. It's all good, man. You mentioned good vibes. I think that's it all around. Even that one down week we had last week, it was against a team that you consider to be a possible Super Bowl contender. And if you're fighting with them till the fourth quarter, then I think you feel pretty good coming away with that. And then you take that to the next level here. I mean, this is 3 times in the first 5 weeks of this season that the Colts have blown out their opponent by 20 or more points, which doesn't happen and hasn't happened with the Colts. I mean, that's not something that happens generally around the NFL that often. No. I mean, it's any given Sunday, and it's that for a reason, because even the worst teams can come out and compete with the best teams. We saw that when the Browns took down Green Bay a couple weeks ago. I mean, you see that pretty often, but this is a team that's consistently going out there and showing that they're a step above some of these other teams that you're playing. So I'm sure we're going to hear a lot of talk about the competition for the Colts and how it hasn't been that great. And maybe you should have lost the Broncos game. You did lose the Browns game. The only games you can win are the Raiders. But yeah, when you win by 34 points, I think it's okay to have that conversation and be like, yeah, we played the Colts played who was in front of them, and they absolutely wiped the floor with them, with the Dolphins there in week 1, with the Titans when it came down to handle business there in the division. So yeah, I mean, I personally have really no doubts about whether or not this is a good football team. I mean, it's pretty obvious through the first 5 weeks that this is at least one of the NFL's very best offenses, and a defense that I think is continuing to get better. So I think, yeah, this is for real, and this is conversations that we're going to be having, and really how quickly that tone has shifted from what we were talking about in the offseason and all the 32nd place in the optimism scores in that survey for the fans, and how fast that turns around when you start winning games, and especially when you start winning games throwing up 40 points and keeping your opponent out of the end zone. So yeah, excited about what we saw this Sunday and excited to see more.
Sure. Yeah. And, you know, before we get into, you know, the actual game and what we saw and, you know, what's to come, I love that you brought up the lack of competition. So the Tennessee Titans are about the only team you can look at and be like, all right, they got their asses kicked, truly got destroyed in one game. So I'm going to go ahead and run down the point differential in every loss for the Miami Dolphins. That's not the Colts. For the Dolphins, for the Titans, and for the Raiders. All right.
Yeah.
So we've got 6-point loss to the Patriots, who, by the way, just beat the freaking Bills. Okay. They lost by 10 to the Bills. They probably could have had a chance to win that game. They lost by 3 points to the Carolina Panthers. Okay. They lost by 25 to the Indianapolis Colts. Not even close. The next closest loss is by 10 points. So there's the Dolphins for you. The Titans, they lost to Denver by 8. Los Angeles Rams by 14. They lost to the Texans fair by 26. But then they turned around and they beat the freaking Cardinals. Okay. They lost to the Colts by 21, which is the second most. They're the one team you kind of look at, and the coach is on the way out. You got a rookie quarterback, just an absolute lack of culture with the Titans. And honestly, they won that game because DeMarcado for the Cardinals pulled himself an AD Mitchell and dropped the. Otherwise, I mean, you know, the Cardinals probably win that game, but you're probably talking about Callahan getting canned. But then you got the Raiders. They lost by 11 to the Chargers. They lost by 17 to the Commanders. They lost by 1 to the Chicago Bears. 34 to the Indianapolis Colts. Okay, are these teams fantastic? No. Are they more than anything else bottom dwellers? Probably. But like you said, Noah, in the NFL, I don't care if you're the 32nd ranked team playing the first overall team. If you lose, I consider it a real, like, not even competitive if it's 20 points.
Yeah.
I think if you win even 34-20, you can consider that a pretty sound victory. When you go out there, though, and you beat the living crap out of a team by 34 points, your second 40 burger of the season, and the coach on the other sideline is Pete Carroll, that's incredible. That's incredible. They kept him to 6 points. I mean, the Colts have had 2 games where they've kept the team to a single digit of points. So I don't know. I want you to elaborate a little more on that because you did bring it up. The NFL, every team still has professionals. This isn't college, and that's a college football score. 40-6, that's a college football score.
Yeah, like you mentioned, that just doesn't happen in the NFL that often. When it does, for a team, they don't do it 3 times in 5 weeks. So I think the Colts are putting themselves on a different level when they're doing that. To the point where, maybe after week 1, they beat the Dolphins by quite a lot. You're thinking, okay, it was just the Dolphins, whatever. If you get that same result 3 times in a row, that's just something the Colts haven't done consistently, is not only going out there and beating teams by such a wide margin, but just beating them in general and winning the games that you feel like you're supposed to win. It's an area that the Colts have struggled in, what Shane Steichen has struggled in. Even just like these home field games, seems like it is actually an advantage for the Colts right now. And I think through the Shane Steichen era has been pretty 50-50 split on home wins. So it's good to see them creating, and it's different kinds of wins in these games. You mentioned that game they played against the Rams. That wasn't a win, but it was sort of a different kind of game. This one here, I mean, it was really close, for the first quarter and a half, and then you had a couple breakaway plays, and then they just ran away with it, and just coming away with that confidence. I see somebody in the chat mentioning about it being any team, and you can't overlook any team, and it does seem like that's something maybe the Colts have done in the past, is overlooking some of these or not taking it as seriously when you're playing guys like, I don't know, Taylor Heineke and Drew Lock and these guys. But I mean, you're going out there and you're playing some teams that you're heavily favored against, and you're handling your business. So I think that's signifying at least some sort of culture shift. That's not even including the talent shift that it seems like happened, and what's kind of opened up for that offensive scheme with Daniel Jones and Tyler Warren being the additions there. I just think from the ground up, it's been a complete shift in how the Colts are handling their business here.
Well, and it's really good because, we'll end with this. This is just, it's cliche to say this, but you have to say it. I like that you brought up, I mean, names like Jake Browning, dude.
Yeah.
Names like you said, Taylor Heineke in his pit stop with the Falcons on Christmas Eve, nonetheless. My Christmas was ruined, okay, because of that loss. All right, no, I'm just kidding, but it was kind of. And then you lose to these backup quarterbacks, and you let them keep a competitive nature against you when you're supposed to be a playoff team. That's not a playoff team. I'll tell you what a playoff team is one that when they face teams like the Raiders, the Titans, and the Dolphins, they flatten them. They destroy them. That's what you're supposed to do. And they did that to one team on the road. So the Colts are doing everything they should be doing to be a legitimate contender. And don't forget, they're number 1 in the AFC right now. Yeah. So, I mean, they're no joke. They're absolutely no joke at all. So
the exact things that we said about the Colts in previous years in terms of when they drop these games that you're not supposed to lose, you sit there and say, hey, if you're a playoff contender, you don't drop these games. If you're serious, then you don't lose those games that you're supposed to win. Now, everything that we've said about them in the past and what they haven't been able to do, they've completely flipped that on its head and are taking care of things that way.
Yeah. I mean, and you know what? At the end of the day, this team's humming. So we'll go ahead and jump really quick into some of everybody, thank you so much for joining in here. Lindsey Mack has made a return. What a game. The balance of talent across the board, especially on the offense, is crazy. Downs had a game. Doolin showed up. Warren and Pitt did Warren and Pitt things. And the O-line is crazy. Crosby was non-existent. Well, and Noah can attest to this. I'm not saying that that's the offensive line. I mean, don't want to take anything away from the offensive line or Daniel Jones or, the receivers. That's also Shane Steichen's play calling, getting the ball out incredibly fast. And even when he's winning, he's a non-factor. That's the best way right now to negate a pass rush is to just get the ball out fast.
Yeah, and I think, maybe we should be giving a little bit more credit to Daniel Jones. Even we understand the offensive line has been playing lights out. I feel like we'd be remiss not to mention that. Just appreciate the fact that they've been pretty rock solid the entire season, and just keeping Daniel Jones and that pressure off of him. But you mentioned Shane Steichen's play calling, but this is kind of in a situation where you've got a quarterback who's able to make some checks at the line. You give him a couple plays and he's able to put them in the right one. So props to Shane Steichen for coming up with that game plan and getting those right plays in the headset of Daniel Jones, but then also right back on Daniel Jones when he's up at the line of scrimmage and he's processing what he's seeing on the defensive side of the ball. And he's choosing which one of those play calls that he has available to him and getting them in the right call to offset Max Crosby and make him a non-factor in ways that they weren't able to do with guys like Nick Bonito and other pass rushers, Jared Verse. So it was just I think just some growth. You saw some maturity and some growth there and some evolvement of the offense. And I think you'll continue to see that as Daniel Jones continues to get even more comfortable. And it's hard to imagine him being more comfortable than he is in this offense, but he's been here for one offseason with Shane Steichen, and he's really got 5 games under his belt with Shane Steichen. That chemistry, I think, is just going to continue to grow.
And you got to love it because he, like you said, the one word that will bring out the best in a quarterback is when they are comfortable. Mm-hmm. That takes care of everything: the blocking, the timing, the being in sync with your play or your pass catchers and your weapons. It's just everything. So of course we can't move on here. And everyone's got comments here that are going to kind of tie into some later subjects. But of course we cannot do anything with the show without funding from the CFO, the Chief Financial Officer, Patrick Rye, another super chat. He's probably got 100 at this point in his tenure. Patrick says, first game in the last 40 that the Raiders haven't had at least one sack. That is something that I did not even know.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's actually, that's wildly impressive, Noah.
Yeah, they've got guys that aren't Max Crosby up front too. I think Malcolm Kuntz is a really nice piece. Adam Butler on the interior also. But that streak is largely because Max Crosby's been on the field as much as he has for the Raiders and during that 40-game streak. So it's just a testament to how we're able to game plan against one star player, which I feel like is something the Colts haven't done well in the past, is not being like the big players for teams have big games against the Colts. You saw that in the Rams with Jared Verse, Puka Nacua, not able to neutralize the ones who you should expect to be the big threats going in. And then, just completely saw that flip on its head. I think early in the game, it was the first series, Max Crosby busted through for a tackle for loss on an early Jonathan Taylor run. I was kind of like, it's going to be a long day watching number 98 get back in the backfield as much as he's going to. And then, just completely shut down after that. I think a Haria hit, that pass deflection. But when you've got a guy with that kind of talent and that kind of motor, and he's only making that minimal impact on the box score, I think you feel really good about that.
Yeah, I think once Max Crosby did his little cute dance out there on the field of Lucas Oil Stadium, I think that everything kind of went downhill there for him. But hey, it's incredibly reassuring, right? Because I go back, I know that he's otherworldly. I go back to 2023 when the Colts had Gardner Minshew, right? And that was when Lou Anarumo was starting to decline. His defense was starting to kind of fall a little bit in Cincinnati. Trey Hendrickson was the focal point of the Colts' entire offensive game plan, getting double teamed, 3 sacks on Minshew. It's the one freaking guy you got to look out for. I don't even think at that point there was Jesse Bates or anything else going on. He destroyed the Colts, so it is incredibly reassuring that Indianapolis was able to stop a top 5 pass rusher in the league. So, and then, of course, Paul Wilson, another super chat. I'm still in shock. Most preseason power rankings had us at around 25th to 29th. We can all admit that none of us saw this coming. Yeah. On our SI channel, we get to write so many amazing things, originals and covering other stories. But one downside is that sometimes the content, you get a lot of something over and over. And power rankings, none more than the preseason, like you mentioned, Paul. It's kind of like covering mock drafts. It just gets to the point where you're like, oh my God, this sucks. I'm ready for the season to start, right? I don't think that before the season started, Noah, I don't think I covered a single power rankings piece, whether it be from Fox Sports, CBS, ESPN, SI, that didn't have the Colts at least 20th or farther back. Yeah. What do you make of this? Because right now, I think it was Bucky Brooks just had the Colts move from 10th to 6th. I still think that's somewhat low because they are literally the number one team in the AFC.
Yeah, I think it's still everyone's still a little bit apprehensive and waiting to believe what they're seeing with the Colts team. Like even us on the show, every time they have a good game, we're sitting there like, but what about next week? Can they do it next week? And time again, they've proven, like they can do it 5 weeks in a row at this point. So I know personally, I'm done saying that. I'm pretty sold on what this team is for this season, and I feel like maybe results aren't going to go exactly how you want it, but I think the bedrock of the foundation of this team has been built, and they've shown kind of what they're going to be upcoming. And you just hope that they can keep it together. But yeah, everything was 20th and below. I think there's probably a few people out there talking about how, hey, it's a weak AFC South division. The Colts could probably push for that title. Probably wouldn't take that much from Daniel Jones. But I think even the people that were on top of that and saw some sort of potential definitely didn't see like top 3 offense in the NFL kind of potential from what we're seeing from this Colts team. So yeah, and I think it's weird too, because it's not like we saw this during the preseason. Like there was a lot of speculation that we had before like actual preseason game action started and training camp practices were going on, and you weren't seeing a separation from Anthony Richardson and Daniel Jones really in those practices or those performances in the game. The offense wasn't really moving efficiently under any of those guys. It's just weird how immediately in week 1 it just kicked off, right? And you just kind of took the training wheels off of Daniel Jones and let him operate that offense, and he flourished in a way I think it seems like really only Shane Steichen was expecting.
Yeah, and I know that it's over, and a loss is a loss, and a team can only blame themselves when they lose a football game. Yeah. But they beat the Rams. Like they really did. And even when you look at the Broncos game and you're like, okay, well, they kind of got lucky with a penalty. That's a top 5 defense. And Daniel Jones, ladies and gentlemen, had the most passing yards he's had all season against Denver. Yeah. Okay. And all they did was target the crap out of Pat Surtain. So Daniel Jones also made one of the most impressive throws I've seen all year to Michael Pittman in the end zone. I mean, right now, you can see Giants fans on X saying, well, just wait for it. It's coming. Daniel Jones wasn't beating teams by 34 points in New York. I can absolutely promise you that. So
he has never operated that at the consistency that he is with this long of a streak that he's been doing it. And frankly, he just hasn't had the free reign over an offense like he has in this system. So I don't see why. This is obviously partially under his control that he's making these plays happen and putting himself in the right situation. So I don't see why that would continue.
Yeah. So anyway, guys, we have a game to talk about that just happened. Believe it or not, this isn't just a rant. We could do this. We really could. But so we're going to jump into I love that Noah just randomly, we didn't even plan this last week. Noah just started throwing in all caps, Overreaction Monday into the show. So what we'll each do is we'll each kind of give an overreaction based off of the game that was just played, and we'll kind of dive into each one. And we'll just kind of go with however many we're feeling, probably just one apiece. But Noah, I'm going to go ahead and let you start. I've got one in mind, and it can be anything. It can be a player, a team. What do you see happening going forward? That sort of stuff.
Yeah, and I think this one should just be team based to start, and that's the Colts are the best team in the AFC. And I think that I don't necessarily know if I believe that. Right now they are, though. Right now they are. They're top on the AFC in terms. I think they're tied with the Bills as the first seed in the AFC right now. I would love to see what that matchup would look like. I don't think we're going to see that until playoff time if that's what happens. But yeah, this is a team that, you mentioned like 20s and below in the power rankings, and all of a sudden things are shifting. People are still ranking them a little bit lower. Let's go ahead and do the overreaction here and give them all the credit that they're due. And right now they're playing like one of the best teams in the NFL. So yeah, let's go Indianapolis Colts, best team in the AFC right now.
I love it. And, they are showing that it's consistent. They haven't really had a pitfall of a game. The least amount of points they've scored is 20. And they were playing a phenomenal defense that by all regards was, look, guys, when they played the Los Angeles Rams, that offensive line, even Quentin Nelson, they could barely handle all of the talent that was getting thrown at them. Guys like Verse, guys like Byron Joe. I think it's Byron Young, I believe. They just absolutely hitting these guys constantly. The Colts, by all regards, scored at least 32 points if you take away Mitchell's struggles. Okay, so they've shown nothing but consistency. And yes, they've beaten 3 lower tier teams. But like we said in the first part of the show, if you're just joining, they destroyed them like an Alabama or like a top tier college football team would to just this little known Youngstown State or something. That's how they've been handling these lesser teams. But they also ran it up on the Broncos offensively. They also competed very closely with the Rams. So, I mean, this team's pretty much played every level of opponent you can. And then, of course, there's barely any turnovers. Daniel Jones has 2 picks all year, not one. He's got 1 fumble. Okay, all 3 of his issues came against the Rams when his offensive line had their worst game, and he still almost won the game. So, I mean, there's just, at the end of the day, there's very few mistakes. It's been very clean. Even the defense is showing out. Yeah. And it's starting to flesh out now, even with a multitude of injuries. Noah, I got to say, man, I agree with you. I think that right now it's hard for me to think about another AFC team that's better, especially after the Bills just lost to, the Patriots. So,
yeah, I think that's the one that you kind of have questions about. Kansas City's had their struggles, obviously.
Sure.
The Ravens are kind of in a free fall at this point, and I think those are really the top contenders that you're talking about when you're talking about the AFC outside of the Bills. Really, in the AFC South, it seems like this is probably going to come back to bite us at some point later on in the season, but it doesn't seem like it's that much of a competition. The Jaguars, I don't really know what the staying power is for them. We'll see, I guess, tonight how things turn out when they play another like a premier team here in the AFC with the Chiefs. I'm just craving. Then this isn't something I was going to think I would be saying in the beginning of the season or during preseason, is that I want to see the Colts play the best teams in the NFL, because I really want to see actually where they stack up against these people. If you're seeing them play against the Rams, I would love to see them play the Rams again without kind of those fluky things that happen there with AD Mitchell, maybe with even a home field advantage. So maybe that silent snap count's not as timed up, and the defensive line isn't completely teeing off on you. I think really that's a game that I'd like to see in a series. And if you're talking about, hey, they're right there on that same tier with one of the best teams in the NFC, then very much have that conversation about in the AFC as well. So I think if they're not the best team in the AFC, they should be in that conversation. Right now, they have a first round bye if the playoffs started today. So that's an overreaction, but also, I think maybe it'll look even smarter if we come back to this in 4 or 5 weeks.
Yeah, and I'll go ahead, and we got a couple of reactions here from Lindsey Mack. Because I wanted to pull up stats real quick before I give mine. So overreaction. Drake looks better in a vest than a t-shirt. Rock that vest, Drake. I'll be sure to do that again. I got some good vests. Don't you worry. One of them's a puffy one, which is weird because it's sleeveless, but it's warm. So I don't even know when the hell I'm supposed to wear it.
It's a Bill Belichick special.
It's a Bill Belichick special. That's right, man. And then, of course, Paul says, no way the gun show is better. You guys are ridiculous. And then Lindsey Mack says, overreaction. Noah is our good luck charm. Since he started co-presenting the show, Colts have been on fire. Yeah, and I love this because just a real quick side note, Noah had done the show a few times filling in for me, and at the time, former co-host Andrew Moore. And when Noah took the mantle after Andrew stepped away and just became an emeritus writer, one of the things that Noah kept saying was, I haven't even covered the Colts when they're playing a regular season game.
I think I did 40 episodes before the Colts took a regular season snap. So that's
yes, and so. Me and him were so pumped to talk about the Dolphins. And I remember me and him were like, there's a really good chance the Dolphins are going to beat the Colts. Yeah. And so since then, it's just been a train. And you're just hoping that it continues. So thank you so much, guys. My overreaction is it's hard for me to say it because it's hard for me to say it.
Overreact, do it.
Daniel Jones is an MVP candidate.
Oh,
It's really tough because it's actually not too crazy because the MVP award, it almost is just never going to go to a defensive player, right?
Yeah.
It's almost never going to go to a running back. That's the next closest position that you're going to have, but it almost always goes to a QB. All right. Matt Stafford right now leads the NFL in passing yards. Okay. He's got 11 touchdown passes. He's got only 2 interceptions. Okay. Yes, Dak Prescott is second. That's I'm not even going to talk about Dak Prescott, but Daniel Jones is playing more efficiently than anyone. He's also thrown in rushing scores.
Mm-hmm.
He's incredibly accurate. He's turned the ball over 2 times, and it was in one game. And he's playing on an MVP level. And in fact, when you put the quarterback rating, like when you actually put the passer rating into play here, it's 105.1, which is around Baker Mayfield territory, Josh Allen territory. I mean, the Colts are 4-1, probably should be 5-0, but they're definitely 4-1. And honestly, Noah, he's playing so well that this offense is putting up 40-plus points a game. I understand they have Jonathan Taylor. I understand they have all these weapons. I mean, he's orchestrating it. He's making the play calls. He's making the adjustments. By all regards, the Colts haven't gone into these games starting off with the ground attack. They've started off by throwing the football with Daniel Jones to open up Jonathan Taylor. What are your thoughts on that? Because I'll be honest, I think realistically, is he going to win the MVP? I think he's going to have to maybe pad his stats a little more, right? But I mean, who's to say he doesn't have a 3 or 4 touchdown pass game in him coming up? I mean, he's faced every situation, and all he's done is play efficient football.
Yeah. I won't be surprised if we see a 4 touchdown game from Daniel Jones here soon. Like it seems like it's like I don't see a reason why it wouldn't happen. Just situationally, or when you're in the goal line, you have JT, you're going to give him the ball and give him some opportunities. That's why he came away with 3 scores this last game. So, yeah, I mean, talking about him as an MVP candidate, I think him just being, by nature of being on one of the top teams in the AFC, like that, usually you give the MVP to the best quarterback on one of the best teams, right? And that's I think in Daniel Jones' favor there. I think what he has going against him, is kind of that the statistics may not be there just kind of in bulk like they maybe are for some other teams. I mean, he's playing on an offense that has the NFL's leading rusher that rushes the ball about 50% of the times. In the red zone, you're turning to those to guys like Jonathan Taylor and taking away those touchdowns of what would be some statistics you could pad onto the stats of Daniel Jones. So maybe statistically that doesn't work out. He didn't even play in the 4th quarter last game, so that's 1 quarter less, and still has all those stats racked up for this year. But yeah, I mean, statistically it's probably not going to be there for him, but I think if you're just gauging it off of how much he means to how this offense is running right now, I think it's never going to be really in consideration. I think when people are voting for MVP, just because you've got national or like local people who are voting for national awards, so they're really only paying attention to their markets, or even if you've got national guys, they're just kind of they don't really have a laser eye on all these teams. So it's really hard for I think the voters to understand what he's changed about this Colts offense and the way that it's able to run through him. So maybe the award's not going to him, but I think just in terms of the spirit of being one of the most valuable players in the NFL and how he's been able to turn around a team that by all accounts was supposed to be like 24th, 25th in the power rankings, then very much should be in play for that.
Yeah, and I like that you said that, because at the end of the day, one of the things that I'm really judging all of this off of is just how it's really the level of efficiency. And yes, he's in a running offense, okay? But I mean, the guy is tied for 10th in completions with Josh Allen. All right, he's only 2 behind Jared Goff, who's also in a running offense. By the way, they have freaking David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs. They have 2 RB1s. So, I mean, it's you can't use – I don't think that you can just purely look at numbers, right? When you're making an MVP vote, I think that you have to look at the body of work. You have to look at the efficiency. You have to look game in, game out. And, I mean, it's hard to find a quarterback in the NFL that's playing better week in, week out than Daniel Jones. So I will say this. This isn't really an overreaction, but I do think that I don't know who else you can even – have number 1 as comeback player of the year. I I don't know if there's even anyone close. I can't even think of who second might be. But I fully expect if Daniel Jones keeps this up, 100% should win NFL Comeback Player of the Year. And don't be surprised if you see Shane Steichen simultaneously win Coach of the Year because of what he's done with the Comeback Player of the Year, right? So, but yeah, those are a couple of our overreactions. We are already 30 minutes into the show. We got to get things going here. Patrick Rye, here you go again, man. And also, I love your comment that says overreaction. Anthony Richardson should be a tight end. Did you see how he caught his own pass? Love it. Absolutely love it. Guy gets one opportunity to come in a blowout. And of course, he Brett Favre's it and throws a pass to himself. Just ridiculous, man. With Lamar and Burrow out, Hurts underwhelming. Could we finally see a non-QB MVP if JT can beat out Allen or Stafford? On pace for around 2,100 all-purpose yards and 22 touchdowns. Noah, I want to get your opinion on this, but I'll just throw this in real quick. I mean, he's pretty much the unanimous Offensive Player of the Year leader right now. He looks honestly at or better than the level he was playing at in 2021 when he was an All-Pro. I mean, dude, Jonathan Taylor, he's got only 2 games where he scored touchdowns on the ground, but they were both hat tricks. So this is a guy who, if he doesn't run for 100 rushing yards, he's finding the end zone multiple times. Now he's catching passes. Now he's pass blocking. And then a lot of times he is connecting on over 100 rushing yards. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, the pace that he's on is incredible, and that's even with Daniel Jones leeching some goal line touchdowns, Tyler Warren getting a goal line touchdown, just those kind of things that I feel like Jonathan Taylor could easily have 3 or 4 more touchdowns if those carries went to him instead of QB sneaks or to Tyler Warren. So it's a hard pace to keep up, especially at the running back position. I mean, I'm not going to say that he can't do it, because I think if really there's anyone who can do it, I think he's shown the consistency throughout his career to prove that could be him. But yeah, it is really hard to I mean, when you're getting the workload that he's getting and the amount of touches that he's getting, playing as many snaps as you do as a running back, with the recent injuries that Jonathan Taylor's had to deal with, you hope he can stay healthy and maintain that workload throughout the whole year. I think that would be the key thing. But yeah, non-quarterback MVP, I think, is rare. Josh Allen, Matt Stafford playing very well, and I think they will continue to grab headlines even amongst people who are covering the Colts. Daniel Jones is splitting those headlines with Jonathan Taylor, so I think it would be hard for him to garner those MVP votes. Nationally, not a lot of people talking about Jonathan Taylor, save for the L'Jarius Sneed stiff arm that got him the angry run scepter. I think that's kind of where the talk is. So I think you're really going to have to see this for about 5-6 more weeks until you get into those double-digit weeks while he's maintaining this pace before people really start to talk about that being an MVP type season from a running back. But yeah, hopefully, I mean, you don't want to rely on that. I think the whole goal of coming into the season was you didn't want to have to rely on that, and they've done a good job in establishing a threat as a passing offense, so you don't have to rely on that. But really, when we talked about Khalil Herbert coming in, DJ Giddens coming in as being guys who could share that workload, it doesn't seem like DJ Giddens is there and ready to be there yet. Khalil Herbert, obviously not with the team anymore. Tyler Goodson's been dealing with injuries. Despite the efforts that I think you made to bolster that running back room, it seems like you're kind of in a similar situation where you were last year, where if you don't have Jonathan Taylor on the field, then you're really lacking a threat. But also Jonathan Taylor's kind of complemented that in his own way by rounding out his game to the sense where you don't have to take him off the field. You feel like on third downs, he can be a threat for you catching the football, even though I think he has shown a little bit of more struggles in that area as of late and isn't really firing on all cylinders in terms of being a receiving back like he was earlier, but still as a pass protector, I think is performing well above expectation and playing pretty well as a pass protector. So yeah, I think you kind of had one plan going forward at the running back position, and then the way that Jonathan Taylor has kind of been playing has kind of counteracted that. So I hope that is something that they don't have to maintain, and you can rely on him later on in the season when he doesn't have. I mean, how many I would have to look up how many touches he has total so far this season, but if he's averaging like 20 a game, like he's over like 120, 115 touches already this early in the season, I think that's kind of crazy.
Jonathan Taylor has 94 carries in 5 games, number 1 in the NFL. Through 5 games, he has 16 catches.
Yeah,
that's
so
3 a
110.
game. That's 110 touches for, let's see, quick math, 480 rushing yards, 133 receiving yards. That's 613 total yards. And that's over 120 all-purpose yards a game. That's just that's insane. 7 all-purpose touchdowns. I mean, what an absolute unit of a football player. So thank you so much, Patrick. We're actually still going to, believe it or not, talk about the game they just played. So the biggest impact performers, man, for me personally, I really want to go with an absolutely ridiculously unconventional player. And I'm trying to think who that would even be. You know what? I really, really love Matt Gonsalves. You know, he comes back, and Dalton Tucker, bless his heart, man. If there was one game where you're like, God, I really don't want Dalton Tucker out there, it was against the Rams. I mean, this is no offense. Dalton Tucker's he was an undrafted free agent out of Marshall. Okay, last season he did okay by his standards. He did okay. You know, you don't look at a guy like him and go, okay, I need you to go out there, no pressures, shove your guy backwards like a snowplow. That's not what you expect from 68. You expect stability so that you can have a stopgap till 71 comes back. And Matt Gonsalves, I mean, he is a beast. He's an absolute winner. He's a pure starter. He's filled in for Will Fries beautifully. He's looking, honestly, like one of the most polished guys on that offensive line. I think that he's really adopted, Noah, the inside role very well. And you're not seeing really any lapses in his game ever since he moved from the outside, where you can sometimes be on an island, which, let's face it, even the best tackles in the NFL sometimes can get destroyed on an island.
Bernard Ryman recently has happened.
Bernard Ryman has multiple times this year, and he's still one of the top 10 tackles. He's been roasted, and Braden Smith got roasted by Max Crosby. So, you know, I really like what Matt Gonsalves has been able to do since they moved him inside. You know, who's one of your biggest impact performers from that game? Because honestly, the way that they beat the crap out of the Raiders, you really can't go wrong.
Yeah, there's a lot. So, the weeks previous, we've called this most surprising performers. I think it's funny the week that I decided to change it to biggest impact performers, because I feel like we were out of surprises. I think we got some surprise performances this week.
We did. Yeah.
So I'm going to go ahead and start with one that I think everybody's been talking about. We know the receiving core did great. The Pittman touchdown, Josh Downs doing his thing, Tyler Warren getting his first receiving touchdown, but Ashton Doolin stepping up as a starter in place of, I guess, A.D. Mitchell a la Alec Pierce is kind of what he did. And he kind of came in, and the stat line doesn't really do justice what
led the team in receiving yards.
I mean, he played a ton of snaps. What was it, 50-something snaps, I think, on the offensive side of the ball, maybe 40. But just a huge role for Ashton Doolin, coming in place of a guy who, I mean, just has all that hype around him, but wasn't able to be reliable enough for the coaches. And then you have the complete opposite in Ashton Doolin, who's the most reliable player. Like, through multiple coaching staffs, he's survived the drafting of Michael Pittman, Alec Pierce, Josh Downs, A.D. Mitchell, Anthony Gould. All of them came in as draft picks. A.D. Mitchell and Ashton Doolin still out there making plays. The kick return that got called back would have been a huge impact if not for that holding play. I mean,
Joe Bocci.
That happened really early on in the game, and I was like, "Oh, we're doing this again, right?" Where big touchdowns get called back. That would have been 3 in those 2 weeks back to back. So luckily, that didn't end up being a huge factor. But yeah, him coming out and playing that massive role on offense while still being the primary gunner on special teams on the outside, and contributing with a kick return, what would have been a touchdown. He had, I guess, those 2 pretty big catches for about 55 yards. I think he ended up having that one along the sideline where he got absolutely hammered and barely got his feet in, but just it bobbled it at the last second. That could have been a really big impact play. I like that he was in position for that one. And then drew that pass interference deep. He was contributing to this offense without lighting up the stat sheet. And I think, just someone who's done everything right and coming in and really, I think if you're trying to teach A.D. Mitchell a lesson, the perfect person to put in the game is Ashton Doolin and watch him succeed, just being the reliable guy that he was. So excited to see him come in. And I don't know if Alec Pierce is going to be missing any more time. It's always hard to tell with concussions, but if he is, I think Ashton Doolin's probably earned his way above AD Mitchell on the depth chart. So forget AD Mitchell. We're going with the OG AD and Ashton Doolin. I think he's kind of proven himself to be what should be, I guess, wide receiver 4 on this roster right now.
I mean, Ashton Doolin played 47 snaps.
Yeah.
Just to give you an idea, Michael Pittman played 54. I mean, that's your number one receiver, only playing 7 more snaps than your gunner on special teams. Ashton Doolin, I love that you brought that up. I'll make it brief. I mean, I believe, I can't remember if he was an all-pro special teams player. I can't remember.
He has made a Pro Bowl. I don't know if he was all-pro, but he has for sure made a Pro Bowl.
Yeah. I mean, Ashton Doolin, I mean, probably the most impressive statistic about this guy has nothing at all to do with his receiving. I mean, for his career, he's got 38 catches. Here's what's really interesting. There was a year this man had 17 tackles, 10 tackles in 2024. Keep in mind, he missed all of 2023 due to an ACL tear. He's got 50 freaking tackles for his career. 38 of those are solo. Basically, this guy is a garbage pail. He will do all the dirty work. He will do anything you ask him to do. And honestly, if the Colts are winning, Noah, and he's out there, they just put up 40 points. This man only caught 2 passes, and he Alec pierced the Raiders. He had the most receiving yards of the game. Josh Downs had like 6 catches. Tyler Warren had like 4 or 5. Pittman did his thing. I don't think that you should even think about AD Mitchell right now. I hate to say that because I've got the guy's jersey behind me. But I've got his jersey behind me because I think that the talent's there. I think he is going to turn into something wonderful, but it might not be this year. It's just facts. It might not be year 2. I think that Ashton Doolin just put himself squarely in the wide receiver 3. Wide receiver 3 discussion until Pierce comes back. I mean, I wouldn't move. I wouldn't do anything. I would leave him right where he's at. What do you think about that? Alec Pierce comes back. Unless AD Mitchell through practice just starts to show you he's matured, he understands what he's doing, he's better, and I mean better across all fronts than Ashton Doolin, I would leave 16 in there. I really would.
Yeah, I think you have to. And I don't even think it's about like holding AD Mitchell accountable. I think that's happened already. You held AD Mitchell accountable by setting him down last week, and you did that already. That punishment's over. Now it's just like giving a guy who's super reliable and has done everything right for you for the past 7 years. Like, you just rewarding a guy who's earned it. At this point, it has way more to do with Ashton Doolin right now than it does about AD Mitchell. Just with what he was able to give you and the reliability he was able to give you on the offensive side of the ball. And then just on top of that, I wish that we had a stat tracked. I don't know. I'll probably have to look this up at the show after the show because it's going to bother me. But if there's a way to track how many balls that he's downed from Rigoberto Sanchez as a punt inside the 20, I mean, if you're not even tracking tackles on special teams, he's definitely been down there being the first guy to down a ball inside the 10 or inside the 20. So, yeah, I mean, he's just been so valuable in more than one way, and great to see him get a chance to play the position that I'm sure he's probably itching to play is throughout his whole career. I'm sure he's been wanting to get on the field as a receiver and really stepping up. And even when you get Alec Pierce back, I think he's someone that can definitely play into that rotation. I think even before this whole thing and the AD Mitchell flukes happened, like he was kind of splitting time pretty evenly with AD Mitchell there in terms of like getting a dozen or so snaps a game, just in a rotational role. So yeah, like you mentioned, maybe you don't even think about AD Mitchell and what his role should be. I think it's okay to throw him in there for a few snaps, but maybe 6-7 snaps a game, and really target him on the snaps. I think if you have him in the game and you're not targeting him, then he's more of a liability than anything. So yeah, just kind of deploy him tactically and give Ashton Doolin the other share of the reps there.
Yeah. Sorry. Before we move on here, sorry if I was chuckling, laughing, trying to hold my giggles back. Patrick, dude, your jokes about your ex, I really wish I could show them. I really do. I mean, good God, man, you are a clown, and I love it. I love every second of it. But yeah, I mean, look, at the end of the day, this team really values grit. They value effort. I mean, every NFL team does. And what they don't value is lack of discipline, lack of thinking, lack of common sense, and lack of awareness. And Doolin shows everything they want so far, A.D. Mitchell has shown everything they don't like. So that's a perfect recipe. We'll see what happens with A.D. Mitchell, though. I think so much of his talent. If he can just get it fixed up here, I mean, the sky's really the limit for that kid. So we'll go ahead and knock these out. Offense remains one of the NFL's best. So, I mean, we already kind of touched on it, but dear Lord, I mean, this wasn't even – this might have been as far as just a pure performance. I'm looking here. The Colts had – okay, so they didn't like – I don't have it in front of me. I don't think this is probably the most they've ever accomplished, but they had 317 total yards, 221 through the air. They had 96 on the ground. I mean, they have just asserted themselves as a top 5 offensive unit. By some regards, their best. We've talked a lot about Daniel Jones. We've talked a lot about Jonathan Taylor. Yeah. What other weapon do you think has like helped this team achieve so much? Because it's also a hard question to answer, Noah, because Daniel Jones is not favoring a single pass catcher over anyone else. He's just spreading it out.
Yeah, it gets spread around really well. I mean, and I think, just opening up. Like, I think the big thing that we had talked about previously in terms of like what the weakness is on this offense, and we said that was pretty glaring. Like, they move the ball really well between the 20s, but as soon as they get in the red zone, things have been a little bit dicey up to this point. And then you get 6 red zone trips and come away with 6 touchdowns, a perfect 6 for 6 this week in the red zone, kind of showing that, hey, they've had these tools all along to be effective in the red zone and have finally been able to do it. I think 2-point conversions are maybe a little bit of a different question, because I think they definitely struggled with that when they were forced to go for those 2-point conversions. But yeah, as far as being in the red zone, I mean, just cleaning things up and operating consistently, using your threats like Michael Pittman there, that throw that Daniel Jones made. And I think Daniel Jones, like, as well as he's been playing, I think this week, I think he just showed an extra level of confidence, because I don't think that's a pass that he was really attempting before early on in the year in terms of like rolling out and trying to hit it in a tight window like that. That was a really risky situation that you were in right before the half. I think it was around 12 seconds left, no timeouts. You had to either throw it out of the back of the end zone or get it in the end zone. You couldn't take a sack. You couldn't throw it short of the goal line. And I think, as he was rolling out, I was kind of thinking just throw it out of the back and either get that field goal on 4th down or take one more shot at the end zone. But I mean, he saw a little bit of an opening and rifled it in there to Michael Pittman, who's been as consistent as he's always been. So, yeah, just finding different ways and being a little bit more confident and creative was fun to see. I think Shane Steichen being a little bit more creative. It was a little bit of a bummer that the 2 wrinkles that he threw in on the offensive side of the ball in the red zone, tried to take them by surprise, didn't work. But I think it's fun that those 2 things are on film now for opposing defenses, and they have to be on the lookout for that halfback pass from Tyler Warren when he's looking for Michael Pittman in the back of the end zone, or that tackle eligible to Bernard Ryman was something they tried to. I mean, they were trying a whole bunch of different things. So props to them for trying to really get creative and make things happen in the red zone. And now, I mean, they just have all those extra wrinkles that they can throw in, or at least make defenses be thinking about they might throw in. So yeah, I mean, I definitely won't be surprised if we come up these next 2 weeks in a certain red zone trip and we see a tackle eligible thrown in there, and they run something completely different just because the defense is thinking about Bernard Ryman leaking out and getting that catch. Maybe that they attack that edge with a run to Tyler Warren or Jonathan Taylor. I fully expect them to do that. So yeah, fun to see them continue to evolve and really grow in a way that we thought was a weakness up till this point, and they're showing it can be a strength.
Yeah. And, I just because you guys in the chat are just absolutely on fire, just a couple things. NFL nerd, that is a hilarious comment about Sanchez. I can't get over it. You guys are absolutely ridiculous in the chat. And Paul, I don't delete any comments. If YouTube wants to delete that, that's fine. But we on this show very much value hilarity and comedy. So please keep it coming. But yeah, I mean, I'm looking at this game right here. 21 completions. 2 were to Dillon, 6 were to Downs, 4 were to Warren, 5 were to Pittman, 3 were to Taylor. There's Anthony Richardson with a 9-yard completion to himself. So it's just a testament, Noah, because this offense just keeps on humming, and you can't take one player in your defensive meetings and say, we got to take away this guy because it's just going to open up more for another guy. Like no one is taking over the target share, but Michael Pittman is on, I mean, he's got 4 touchdown catches already, and he's not been a big touchdown guy. And then guys like Tyler Warren, he's just a rookie. And while I do personally think he could work with any quarterback, he's so good. Daniel Jones is maximizing, his talents. And it says something when Ashton Doolin comes in and hasn't played at all hardly on offense, comes in and leads your team in receiving yards when you got Downs catching 6 and Pittman catching 5, Warren catching 4. This offense is an issue. I mean, there's so many ways they can attack you. And then before you know it, Jonathan Taylor's ripping off a 60-yarder, because you missed 3 tackles. I mean, it's a problem. This offense is a juggernaut right now, and it doesn't look like they're slowing down. So this next one, we'll go ahead and get to this one. I do want to talk a little more about the defense because everyone has been talking about the offense. We get it. There's a very good reason why. And we talked about the lack of pressure. We talked about the lack of sacks. We talked about all that. In this game, though, again, I know that he didn't put up 9 pressures per se, but man, Leatu Latu, he's really starting to come into his own, Noah. He's looking like that 15th overall selection that they picked him at. I'll be honest though, a guy that's really starting to stand out to me, and he's been with the team forever, is Tyquan Lewis. He's balling out. He's balling out. He had another sack. He's playing really well as a NASCAR package guy. Samson Ebicom did his thing. Zaire Franklin had a sack. DeForest Buckner got a sack. I mean, this defense. You're also talking about the injuries. I mean, Kenny Moore. He's gone. Jalen Jones, he hasn't been able to suit up yet. And then you bring in Mike Hilton. What the hell happens to Mike Hilton? He gets hurt, his shoulder, so then he's out. And on top of all that, Xavier Howard retires. And while that's, he did the right thing, you could tell when a player retires like that, in like a synopsis, they're saying to the league, like, I know I'm done. Like, I know I'm cooked.
At least it wasn't Vontae Davis at halftime.
He
at least did it in the middle of the week. So.
R.I.P. to Vontae Davis, but that has to be. I mean, his teammates were so pissed when he did that. They could not hold back in those interviews. Seriously. But Louis Anarumo, man, Mekhi Blackman goes out there. He gets a pick. Chris Lamons has multiple plays where he just goes right in there. He was just on the roster. But then Mike Hilton, he's out. Here's Chris Lamons in there looking like his preseason form, where he played great. I am wildly, and I mean wildly, impressed by what Louis Anarumo has done with this secondary. It seems, and even Jonathan Edwards had himself a play, and he's an undrafted rookie. I love what I saw. I know that Geno Smith is probably going to get benched. I understand that he's a turnover machine. Honestly, he looks more like his Jets form this year. But Noah, I really like what Anarumo's done. It's taken a little bit of an adjustment. As what did we say on the show? The first couple of weeks, you might see a little bit of an adjustment and some struggles. But the guys that we wanted and needed to see step up, guys like Latu, guys like, guys like Charvarius Ward, guys like Cam Bynum, even Nick Cross, they're doing it. They're doing the thing, man.
Yeah, I think, there's obviously a lot to talk about here on the defensive side of the ball. Chris Lamons, I love that you brought him up. Mike Hilton goes down. Chris Lamons was just signed to the active roster from the practice squad, just earned that roster spot back. I think he's kind of an enigma in this room because you're looking at the cornerback roster: Charvarius Ward, Jonathan Edwards, Mekhi Blackman, Mike Hilton. These are all guys who were not on the team last year. Chris Lamons is a guy who's kicked around with the Colts a little bit, really had a strong preseason performance that I think kept him around, whereas you got rid of some other guys on this roster who had like Juju Brents was a guy that you could have maybe kept on the defensive side of the ball. You kept Chris Lamons back on the practice squad. He earns his job back, has to go in and play a much bigger role than you anticipated with Mike Hilton going down, and really played really well. I thought Mike Hilton was playing well before the snaps or before the injury that he had. Charvarius Ward, I think, is playing exactly like the player you paid him to be.
Yep.
Maybe it's not extreme all pro level or whatever, but he's playing like definitely a undisputed number one corner on this team and kind of holding down his assignment on any given play. Cam Bynum's playing like exactly like what you paid him to be. Nick Cross has exceeded my expectations personally in the way that he's been able to fly around. Really, I think it's just that one red spot or the one red flag on Lou Anarumo is what the nepotism, I guess you could call it, that he had for Xavier Howard and just handing him that starting role and kind of refusing to move off him until he was kind of his hand was forced and he had to find another decision or make another decision.
He retired himself for
Anarumo. Yeah. So like, I mean, and Mekhi Blackmon, I know he's definitely had some struggles. That trip on that Tutu Atwell touchdown in the Rams game, he had another trip. A slip, a play to Trey Tucker this game. That's something maybe you just got to change his cleats. Maybe I don't know what you got to do to figure that out. But yeah, I mean, it wasn't the glaring hole that you had with Xavier Howard. So I think you can live on the back end of your defense if that's your only liability, and it's really only a few plays here and there for the most part. I thought Mekhi Blackmon played well. He played really well on that interception. I think he had that deep zone and kind of baited Geno Smith into throwing that ball. Zaire Franklin almost comes in and deflects it out of his arms, but he comes up with it. And yeah, just to bring up Zaire Franklin, I think he played really well this game. I think this is a game that he put like a complete game together. I think this might be the first game this season that he's really put together a really good game in the run game and in the pass game. In the way that he played, you just kind of have to shore up that other linebacker spot. I know it's been a rotating cast of Joe Bocci, Cam McGrone, Austin Ajaki, Chad Muma has been playing in there lately. So yeah, you just got to find that other position. I don't think that's something that gets solved quickly. I just saw Jermaine Pratt was released by the Raiders after being a healthy and active. I don't know if I want to go down the road of handing someone a starting job who Lou Anarumo has a past with. Like we know how that goes sometimes, right? So don't want to see that. And then like Jalen Carlies, I don't know if his return is going to be as quick as maybe we all expected it to be. So you kind of have to figure out something in the meantime. Shaguna Luby with that pump block, maybe you reward him and give him some more defensive snaps. But yeah, I really liked what I saw from the defense this week. You worried about that pass rush. Latu didn't have a great day rushing the passer, but even on a down day, rushing the passer comes up with that pick on that deflection from Grover Stewart. He's just very much active and involved and has a high motor and is around in different places on this defense and the way that they're using him. And he's been playing really well all year. And Buckner's been great. Grover Stewart played really well. And now you're finally starting to see some production from your rotational pass rushers, like you mentioned, Tyquan Lewis, Samson Ebukam. Still not a lot from Kwity Paye. You hope to see more there. But yeah, altogether, like the defense has really started to gel. And I think once you kind of hammer out who's going to be that guy opposite Zaire Franklin at that linebacker spot, you've really got a solid starting 11 and a couple rotational pieces that you feel really happy about that I think you could put up really against any offense in the league at this point.
Yeah. And, it just to kind of put a cap on this here, there were 8 pass deflections in this game. Of course, one came from Latu, one came from Stewart that turned into a Latu pick. Jonathan Edwards had one. Joe Bocci had one.
Yeah.
Mekhi Blackmon had one. Nick Cross had one. Chris Lamons had 2. I mean, and a lot of guys were just involved. It's been a team effort on defense, and you love to see it. And like you said, I'll end with this on the defensive side. Kwity Paye right now looks like, as far as starters, he looks like the most underwhelming pass rusher, the most underwhelming edge rusher in a year where the Colts had elected to take his 5th-year option.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see what happens there, man. I'll just say this. If JT Tuimoloau, who, by the way, had more tackles with 1 than Kwity Paye, who had 0. Kwity Paye didn't even make the box score. I'm not saying that's a big deal. Kind of is, though. If JT Tuimoloau in any way, shape, or form can turn out some kind of performances in these upcoming games, I don't know how you pay Kwity Paye. I don't know how you say and can justify giving this man a contract. So we'll see. It's going to be really interesting. Paul, we'll get to your super chat here, but real quick, we do have to get to the news and rumors, and it's really the Colts worked out. They did work out Louis Cine, safety, first round bust by all regards, 32nd overall. He's got like 11 games played.
I think very, very Nick Cross in his build and his athletic ability, I think, is kind of what that reminded me, at least in the pre-draft process. I don't know how his career is kind of going. Obviously, not well if he's working out for the Colts right now in terms of his career with the Vikings. But yeah, at least somebody in that mold is kind of what I'm imagining there.
Yeah, he played with the Vikings in 22 and 23, and then they were done with him. So the Buffalo Bills had him last year, and I think he's got one tackle in his entire NFL career. So that's because Daniel Scott got put on IR. That's why the Colts are kind of kicking around at safety. But Kendall Fuller was also a workout, and that's real simple. That's because, Mike Hilton, who knows what's going on with the shoulder stipend, elected not to go into further detail about that. So, but really the big news and rumors piece here is Spencer Schrader. Tore his MCL, tore his ACL, just a crushing loss for the Colts. And you typically know I don't talk about a kicker being a crushing loss for a team. But when you consider he was perfect for extra points, 14 of 14, he was 13 of 14 kicking field goals, and he was the September AFC Special Teams Player of the Month. I mean, honestly, he was on track to be one of the top kickers in the NFL. So there's guys, a guy that sticks out to me is Matt Prater. I think that you just need to go to the most veteran kicker you can find that can kick the longest field goals. He's got the best track record, and you just freaking sign him as a stopgap. But absolutely just heartbreaking to see Spencer Schrader basically get his knee ripped off, and now he's out for the year.
Yeah, that's rough. And you will see obviously some kicker. We didn't get any official kicker news on workouts. I'm sure we'll hear a list of names that came in for work or come in for workouts tomorrow. Probably see a signing at the end of the day tomorrow or on Thursday or Wednesday. But yeah, it sucks, right? He was playing well. They kind of went all chips in with Spencer Schrader, and we're really banking on him, and really it proved them right, I think, at least this early in the season. So yeah, sucks to see a guy who got his chance and was playing really well kind of see that season end so abruptly. And yeah, for a team that we mentioned these red zone woes that the Colts had previously in the season. I know this past week was 6 for 6, but you can't always expect to go 6 for 6. You might have some spottier streaks where you're struggling a little bit more in the red zone. You do need to rely on your kicker to be able to make some consistently. It's never a good situation when you don't know who your kicker is going to be on Sunday. You could go out and get somebody like Spencer Schrader, who's going to be super reliable, or you could go out there and get somebody who you're just not comfortable with anything more than 35 yards. And I think that could be the case. I mean, they're obviously going to bring in some guys for some workouts, but really off of a workout, when you come in, you're really just going on a hope and a prayer. And what you see when they make, or you're going to have them kick like 10 field goals in practice, and you're going to be like, okay, you looked the best. Let's hope that translates to actual game action. They're in a position where they have to make a decision really quickly at kicker, and really with a limited stock of guys who are available. I know Younghoe Koo and the Giants have another kicker who are probably competing for a job, and I don't even think you can bring one of those guys in on short notice because I think they're both on the practice squad right now. So they're taking up like a whole bunch of kickers. Yeah, I mean, a lot of conversation about some of the other guys who've been kicking around the league. I think Anders Carlson's available. I mean, there's some veterans. Cade York, I think, is out there. So we'll see what the name of actual workouts looks like. Maddox Trujillo is a guy they're familiar with in training camp. Maybe he lost the job pretty outright with really little resistance to Spencer Schrader, but maybe in a pinch you go with a guy rather than some veteran that you're going to bring in and really only see him kick 10 field goals. So yeah, we'll see what happens. But yeah, that's definitely something that a position you don't want to be in, and something that's probably a little bit more important than we're making it out to be.
Yeah, and just one more. I just want to address one more thing because we're going to end the show with Paul Wilson's super chat. Nathan, you said let Rigo kick. This is just going to give you an idea. Okay, in the NFL, even if you're punter, okay, because McAfee tried this. He tried to convince the Colts to let him do both. They don't want you doing that. They just don't. They don't want to have their punter kicking. Rigo kicked for the University of Hawaii Rainbow Warriors.
Mm-hmm.
He also punted. That's college, though. And no offense to Hawaii's college football, but they don't play anybody, right? So they elected to, instead of have Rigo kick field goal or extra points, they went for 2 almost every time. They're gonna sign a kicker. They are going to sign a guy who's only going to focus on kicking. You just can't have a guy doing both.
Yeah, if you are up by 34 points in the fourth quarter and you're still going for 2, you're not comfortable with the kicking situation. I don't know what would change between now and next Sunday in that regard. I think it was probably more the holder who's holding at that point. I don't know.
You don't want AR doing it, right?
Maybe that's Ashton Doolin. He's been able to do everything else so far. Maybe he could do that too as a holder. But yeah, better to just bring in somebody who's done it before. You already have 2/3 of the kicking operation locked up. If you keep Luke Rhodes and Rigo where they are, then at least if you're missing kicks, it's the kicker because you've got 2 guys who've been doing their jobs pretty consistently.
Yes. All right. So Paul, we'll go ahead and finish the show with your super chat. Are we going to have to start calling him Latu Island? I don't know about that, but I will say 2 things. Latu is starting to show out as a serious pressure machine. And I think that at the end of the year, people are going to say, well, his sack numbers aren't good enough.
Yeah.
I think you're going to see maybe 7.5 to 9 sacks. I think 9 would be a really good year for him. But I think that you're going to see his pressures. I mean, he had 9 in one game, man. And that is outrageous. That's crazy. To give you an idea, Jared Verse had 13 going into that game against the Colts. Okay. That was 4.3 per game. Latu almost eclipsed Jared Verse's season total in one game against his own team. So I think that the sack numbers are going to basically, I think that they're going to deceive people into thinking the guy's not a pass rusher. Man, there's way more to pass rushing than just sacking the quarterback. So I think Latu's an animal. I think he's going to show it.
And even if he's not, we just had Shaq Leonard get inducted into was honored at halftime here this past week. That's a guy who just played on instincts and was around the ball. We're starting to see that with Latu.
Yeah.
You like to bring up his play that strip sack last year that he had and his ability to punch out the ball already, 2 interceptions. I mean, it's not like he's covering anybody. So Latu Island, maybe you're not really stranding anybody on Latu Island, but he's playing with high motor and he's instinctual and he's keeping his head on a swivel and he's seeming to be around the ball. I would take a guy who is just generating turnovers more than I would take sacks. So like if you're getting 8 sacks and generating turnovers pretty consistently, I'd take that over a guy who's getting 13 sacks a season or whatever. So yeah, he's playing good football. The numbers we'll just see how they work out at the end of the year, but I'm very comfortable with how Latu's playing. And I think it's more good things are just going to come his way.
Yeah. And, since you mentioned that, to wrap this up, go watch the tape of that game. Latu is constant, and I mean every game, he's constantly getting chipped. He's constantly there's help behind the tackle that he's attacking. These offenses know that he's a problem, and they're addressing it. They're doing everything they can to keep 97 away from the quarterback. So that is our show, everybody. We are only 7 minutes over, but don't forget to like the Horseshoe Huddle on Facebook, follow Indianapolis Colts on SI. On X, we are at Colts_SI. Subscribe to the Horseshoe Huddle on YouTube and click that bell so you're always in the know-how. Want to listen to the Horseshoe Huddle podcast? Good news. Noah's got us covered on Apple, Spotify, everywhere you soak in your Colts information. We are there. Guys, this is a phenomenal time to be a fan of the team, to be covering the team. I mean, I started on this show after literally the same week Frank Reich was canned. Okay, so I have seen this team in the crappiest situation it's been. Noah hadn't even done a single regular season game until this year. It's good. It's a good time to be covering the team and be a fan. So we will see you all on Thursday. We're going to preview the Arizona Cardinals game when they come to Indianapolis on next Sunday. But until then, everybody, enjoy your week. Try to relax if you can. Smile when you wake up. Take it all in. And we'll be talking to you later in the week. Take care.